what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it. Get us some LSU football news. Jayden Daniels made it official yesterday morning around midday, announcing that he will not play in the ReliaQuest Bowl. This is good. This is correct, in my opinion. I would have never said no to Jayden Daniels playing in this game because I loved watching Jayden Daniels as much as I've ever loved watching any LSU Tiger in my entire life. In fact, probably as much as I loved watching any football player in my entire life. He was so overwhelming, so dynamic, so dominant. I mean, I still have dreams every now and then about that Florida game. And I'm not even exaggerating. I mean, that was just an absolute time watching him put that team on his back. I think about that 50-yard touchdown run all the time. Like, I know the 80-yarder was tight because it's 80 and it's a quarterback. That's insane. But that 50, man, watching him weave through the defense was like in V for Vendetta when he's moving so fast that it looks like everybody else is moving in slow motion. It was awesome. So he's not going to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl. That makes all the sense in the world, which now makes it official. It is time for the Nuss Bus. It's time for Garrett Nussmeier to put his best foot forward this bowl season and start the hype train for next year. He gets a full camp schedule with which to prepare and then to play on January 1st. And, Jake, in a very helpful turn of events, it was also announced by Brian Kelly that both Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors will play in the ReliaQuest Bowl. So Malik Neighbors, of course, had kind of stated his intention to do so because he wants to become LSU's all-time leading receiver, which, hell yeah. And the same way, because these are first-round receivers. So it is an injury risk and all that sort of stuff, but the same way that I said I would never poo-poo Jayden Daniels choosing to play, I'm not upset about getting to watch these guys play in an LSU uniform again. I'm excited. And for Garrett Nussmeier, what a nice break. That it's such a big moment for you, and you really need to gain the confidence of the fan base, of your coaches, of everybody, and you have two first-round receivers to throw to.
Yeah. He got to play in the bowl game last year. Remember, I mean, they were kind of rotating series, but now, like, he's going to be the guy. And would we, love to see Jayden Daniels play one more college game? Absolutely, we would. And it was the decision for him. I mean, when I was talking with him in New York, like, he's like, it's a decision. Like, it wasn't just, no, I'm not going to play in the bowl game. I think he really wanted to, but at the end of the day, the right decision because of what this bowl game is and where you're going. And also, like, you're not leaving your team high and dry. They do have a Garrett Nussmeier, and now it starts his era. Like, this is now fully his team, and he gets the opportunity to go out there. Now, how long does Malik Neighbors play in the game? Like, I don't know. Like, is it a situation
that's true. Like maybe
where he goes out there, he gets to the number, he's like, all right, we're good. I don't know that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, to only have that one player, Jayden Daniels, not playing this game, and BK said everybody else that's not in the portal is going to be available. So this is going to be a really strong LSU team going against Wisconsin. And surprisingly, because Jayden Daniels, when he decided to opt out of the bowl game, the line, which started at 10.5, went down to 7.5.
I mean, you should whip this Wisconsin team's ass.
You should.
There's just no. It's not quite. Well, actually, they're not at all in the dire straits that Purdue was last year, where no quarterback and a pretty good one, Aiden O'Connell, no head coach, yada yada. But Wisconsin's just not a good team. They're not a very good team, and I actually think, as crazy as this sounds, there's a shocking amount of pressure on Matt House to turn in a good defensive performance here, despite the fact that, like, this bowl game kind of doesn't matter in a lot of ways. Like,
it matters for him.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And look, it matters for Brian Kelly. They need to get 10 wins. They're the heavy favorite, so you should win as a heavy favorite. That's something that Kelly's been good at since he's got the job. It matters to get 10 wins. It matters that, but, like, this is not some bowl game. It's one of those where it's a bowl game where, Jake, there's not a ton to be gained. There's just a bunch of a risk.
Yeah.
Like, if you win, good. You were supposed to win. If you lose, what in the hell is going on, right?
Yeah.
And so nowhere does that ring more true than Matt House in that defensive side of the ball. This dairy raid has been very ineffective.
It's been spoiled milk.
Yes, it has been a spoiled dairy raid.
Yeah.
And if you go out there and you get torched and you let Wisconsin put up points, well, come on, bruh. What are we doing? That could be a straw that breaks the camel's back type of situation. Other news, Kyron Lacey's going to return next season. That's massive. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Lacey continues to have all the physical potential in the world. Just has to tighten up, some of the drop issues which plagued him at times. But at other times, you saw the flashes of greatness that he can put out there. And what I thought was a very shrewd pickup and shrewd roster management by this LSU football team. They get AJ Swann to commit to play quarterback, the transfer from Vanderbilt. And if you don't know who AJ Swann is, he's guys who played a ton of football at Vanderbilt the last couple of years. And it's a nice threading of the needle with LSU, right? Where the one thing you were worried about next season was you had a lack of experience, a lack of depth. AJ Swann has started a lot of games over the last 2 years. He's played a lot of SEC games. And so he gives you depth and experience. He's also got some potential. Like, we can look at the numbers in a second. You think, okay, maybe this guy can be really good. If he did this at Vanderbilt, how much better could he get in this very healthy offensive system with this offensive line, with these wide receivers? And so he's good enough, Jake, where it's not, there is a world, maybe it's not the most likely world, but there is a world where he could become the starter. So it's somebody who's going to push Nuss, not allow him to, get complacent or maybe just rest on the knowledge that he guarantee will be the starter. But he's also not so good that he runs Nuss off out of frustration or that he's been promised anything like a job or anything. As I said, I think Nuss wins it. Yeah. But this really checks all the boxes we talked about in terms of doing your due diligence, adding a transfer quarterback, getting more depth, providing competition, but also still being able to roll with the guy that you believe in currently.
Yeah, without question. It meets every single check list that we talked about. It marks all of them because we talked about who it would be and where you would bring in a quarterback and what type of quarterback that would be. And we talked about it. A guy with multiple starts, a guy that maybe wasn't necessarily the full-time starter, a guy that you see potential in, and a guy that would come in here and he would push Garrett Nussmeier. And it would make Nuss know that, hey, we do have a guy that has, let's see, he's got, 15 SEC starts? And so, okay, well, that is somebody that if Nussmeier, for whatever reason, went down or something happened, you would have more confidence in than a young player because your backups outside of that are going to be a redshirt freshman and a true freshman. So now you get somebody that has that experience. There's been ups and downs without question. Against Kentucky this year, 16 of 40, 189, and 3 interceptions, right? That's the bad. But against Wake Forest, he throws for 314 and 3 touchdowns. So there's been some good, there's been some bad, but this is somebody that, coming out of high school, he had multiple offers. I think he was the 24th quarterback coming out in his class, and so he definitely has some talent, and it's kind of the perfect fit for what you were looking for.
Yeah, so as a true freshman, I think he was a starter in that Florida game, right, that Vandy won?
In 2022?
Yeah. And so his true freshman stats are kind of interesting. He completes 58% for 1,200 yards, 6.4 yards per attempt. Freshman checking down. 10 touchdowns and 2 picks. You're like, oh, okay. Now, this last year, there was kind of some hype entering the season. Unfortunately, completion percentage went down. Yardage did go up significantly, over 100 yards per game. Yards per attempt went up a full yard to 7.4. Okay, you love that. And then 12 touchdowns, 7 picks. So a little wild, a little too sloppy at times, but there is improvement there. And again, it's a proven commodity with potential to pay bigger dividends that you just didn't have in that room before. So just a really solid pickup, because look, a football team is made up of the entire roster. It goes beyond just the starters. So this is a weird pickup where maybe he doesn't play next year barely at all. So maybe you don't think about AJ Swann that much. Maybe you don't see him that much, but he still is a vital piece of team building and roster building. And again, I like bringing someone in who can push Nuss. No jobs handed out. no complacency, and really push that whole quarterback room, right? Even the young guys who are now like, well, look, I don't just want to assume that AJ Swann's going to be the number 2 pick. I was a big recruit as well. And so I just a real big win on all fronts.
Yeah, he's got, 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So 2 years of eligibility left, and who knows these days how much. But he came in, obviously, after they're given extra years for COVID. So you have him for a couple of years. And, again, for all the things that you said for Nussmeier, but, yeah, it's a good point bringing up, like, the young guys. Like, so these young quarterbacks that are going to be on this roster, like, they know that they've got to go out there and they have to push. And they've got to play better if they truly want to have an opportunity, if they want to be the number 2. Because I would assume, like for AJ Swann coming in, nothing's been promised to him. They laid out the plan. Yeah. They laid out exactly who they have on their roster. So nothing's to say that those young guys can't elevate themselves either.
No, I mean, and look, if you're a quarterback, LSU would look pretty attractive now. Not just because the Heismans, but, I mean, look at the receivers that you're going to throw to. Look at the offensive line, and not just next year's offensive line, but when you look at the O-line recruits and you look at just Kelly's pedigree of O-linemen, like, you're going to be good at that position for a long time. The backs you're going to have, it represents such an upgrade for AJ Swann at this point. And so maybe he's saying in his mind, okay, yeah, I know they like Nuss, but look, man, give me these toys to play with. Put Booby in and let Booby spin. We'll see. Wow, Jake. What incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.